The cameras were rolling. The reporters were waiting. The air was thick with anticipation. Everyone knew this was going to be different. This wasn't just another press briefing. This was a battle. And at the center of it, Karoline Leavitt and Ilhan Omar. The doors swung open. Leavitt walked in, calm, composed, like a gladiator stepping into the arena. The murmurs died down. Every reporter straightened in their seat. Every camera lens turned. She adjusted the mic, scanning the room. Then, with a razor-sharp voice, she dropped the first bombshell. Let's get one thing straight. What you're about to hear today will expose the biggest lie in Washington. A pause. The tension thickened. Reporters exchanged glances. The viewers at home leaned in closer. Leavitt didn't flinch. She had the room exactly where she wanted it. She continued. For weeks, Ilhan Omar and the Democrats have been pushing a dangerous, reckless narrative. They claim to fight for justice. But today, I will prove to you that the truth is very different. A voice cut through the tension. Karoline, are you saying Ilhan Omar has been lying? The room froze. Reporters turned. The question came from CNN's senior correspondent, the one who never held back. Leavitt smirked. She leaned forward, locking eyes with the reporter. Not just lying, she said, her tone sharp, deliberate, but deceiving millions of Americans. Gasp, someone's pen slipped from their fingers as a couple reporters exchanged hurried whispers. This was getting explosive. To the back of the room, Ilhan Omar sat stone-faced. Her fingers gripped the table. She knew what was coming. She just didn't know how bad it would be that a reporter near the front broke the silence. Karoline, if you're accusing Ilhan Omar and the Democrats of deception, then where's your proof? Leavitt didn't hesitate. Oh, I thought you'd never ask. She reached down, picked up a folder, and held it up for the cameras. Right here, concrete evidence that exposes everything. Omar crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. This is absurd, she said, shaking her head. More Republican fear-mongering, more conspiracy theories. The American people deserve better. Leavitt turned to her. Her expression was sharp. Oh, we agree on one thing, Ilhan. The American people do deserve better, better than the misinformation you've been feeding them. The tension in the room was suffocating. Reporters whispered among themselves, some scribbled notes furiously. Others just watched, eyes darting between the two women. The CNN reporter pressed again. Then let's hear it. Karoline, what's in that folder? Leavitt flipped it open. Let's start with your own words, Ilhan, shall we? She pulled out a printed statement. You recently said, and I quote, "There's no real crisis here. It's all manufactured outrage." She turned toward the audience. Tell me, how is it manufactured when crime is rising, when illegal crossings have doubled, when American families are suffering because of reckless policies? Omar leaned forward. That's a gross misrepresentation of what I said. Leavitt raised a brow. Really? Then let's talk about what you didn't say, because silence can be just as telling. Omar's jaw tightened. Leavitt flipped another page. When violent protests erupted, when small businesses were burned to ground, when innocent people were hurt, you refused to condemn it. Why? Omar scoffed. That is not true. Leavitt didn't miss a beat. Then say it now, right here, right now. Condemn the violence. The room went silent. All eyes were on Omar. The camera zoomed in. She didn't respond. Leavitt smirked. That's what I thought. Reporters whispered. Some exchanged glances. Omar's silence was deafening. Leavitt placed the folder back on the podium. I have more, a lot more. But let's give Ilhan a chance to explain herself first. She gestured toward Omar. Go ahead, defend your record. Omar took a deep breath, steadying herself. Gladly, she straightened her posture. She wasn't going to let Leavitt control the narrative. Let's be clear about what's happening here, Omar said, her voice measured but firm. This isn't about facts. This is about Republicans using fear tactics to divide Americans. Leavitt chuckled, shaking her head. Classic. When backed into a corner. Deflect and attack the messenger. Omar ignored her, turning toward the reporters. This entire spectacle is designed to distract from real issues. Poverty, racial injustice. Healthcare while Karoline is here waving papers around. Real Americans are struggling. Leavitt leaned on the podium, smirking, struggling because of failed policies like yours. Omar turned to her, eyes locked. Tell me, Karoline, what have you personally done to help struggling families, other than stand here and grandstand? A murmur rippled through the room. The reporters like this an actual fight. Leavitt smirked in waver. Well, unlike you, I don't just talk, I act. She lifted another page from her folder. Let's go over a few things, shall we? Democrat-run cities are seeing record-high crime. Businesses are fleeing. Families can't afford groceries. And you call that progress? Omar crossed her arms. That's a gross oversimplification, and you know it. Crime is a complex issue. Leavitt cut in. Not that complex. Enforce the law. Hold criminals accountable. Stop prioritizing politics over public safety. Omar's eyes darkened. You want to talk about accountability? Then let's talk about corruption in your party. Let's talk about election lies, about tax breaks for the wealthy while working families suffer. Leavitt's expression didn't change. You're right. Let's talk about accountability. That's exactly what we're doing right now. The room was electric. The camera zoomed in. Leavitt wasn't finished. She tapped her folder. Now, let's discuss something else. Something you don't want to talk about. She held up a document. Your recent campaign donors. Omar's expression flickered. Leavitt saw it, and she knew. She had just found her next move. Leavitt held up the document for the cameras. The room went silent. These donations, she continued, come from organizations with ties to questionable foreign entities. Care to explain that, Ilhan? Omar shifted in her seat. That's a baseless accusation. Leavitt smirked. Oh, is it because I have receipts? She flipped to another page. Here's a list of donors linked to groups that have been flagged for funneling money into radical organizations. These are my words. These are findings from investigative reports. A ripple of whispers spread through the press pool. The CNN reporter raised a hand. Karoline, are you suggesting Ilhan Omar is involved in foreign influence schemes? Leavitt leaned forward. I'm saying that the American people deserve to know where their politicians' loyalties truly lie. Omar scoffed. This is nothing but an attempt to smear my name. Leavitt shrugged. Then prove me wrong. Open your books. Show full transparency. If you have nothing to hide, what's the problem? Omar didn't respond. Leavitt turned back to the reporters. This is the problem with Washington. When politicians get caught, they dodge, they distract, they refuse to answer. She tapped the papers on the podium. But Americans are done with excuses. They want accountability. A reporter in the back spoke up. Karoline, what do you say to those who believe this is politically motivated? Leavitt smiled. I say facts don't have a political party. Truth is truth, whether it benefits Democrats or Republicans. She turned back to Omar. So, Ilhan, last chance. Will you commit right now to full financial transparency? Omar's jaw tightened. I have nothing to hide. Leavitt raised a brow. That's not a yes. The tension in the room reached its peak. Reporters scrambled to get their follow-up questions ready. The headlines were already writing themselves. Ilhan Omar exhaled. This is a distraction. Leavitt chuckled. No, this is accountability, that something Washington desperately needs more of. She gathered her papers, tapped them into a neat stack, and looked directly into the cameras. The American people deserve better, and I promise you they will get it. With that, she stepped away from the podium. The room erupted into a frenzy. Reporters shouted questions. The cameras flashed. Omar sat motionless, her expression unreadable, but one thing was clear. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot.